What if the person you trusted most was secretly planning your death? Did you know that over 700 cases of life insurance fraud involving staged deaths are reported every year? But what happens when the target fights back? Police Starlight, welcome to a story of deception, betrayal, and survival. One that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Police Starlight. Captain Logan Carter returns home after 18 months of deployment, expecting a warm embrace from his wife and son. But instead of a joyful reunion, he finds a house full of secrets. His 10-year-old son, Ethan, is terrified. His wife, Rebecca, is distant and evasive. And soon, Logan uncovers a chilling truth. His own wife is planning his murder. But here's the twist. Logan isn't just any man. He's a soldier trained for war. And when the people closest to him turn against him, he does what he does best. He fights back. Stay with us as we unravel a pulse-pounding thriller where betrayal runs deeper than love, and the most dangerous battlefield is home. Speech balloon, what would you do if you discovered your loved ones were plotting against you? Drop your thoughts in the comments. The cab rolled to a stop in front of the two-story suburban home, the tires crunching over gravel. Logan Carter stepped out, stretching his stiff muscles as he adjusted the duffel bag slung over his shoulder. The house looked the same. White siding, navy shutters, and the old oak tree in the front yard he used to climb with Ethan. A deep breath filled his lungs with crisp autumn air. He was home. Finally. Before he could even knock, the door burst open. Dad! A small figure hurtled toward him, and he barely had time to drop his bag before his 10-year-old son, Ethan, wrapped his arms around his waist. Logan scooped him up with ease, holding him tight against his chest. I missed you, kiddo. I missed you too, Dad. So much. Logan kissed the top of his son's head, breathing him in. He felt bigger, stronger. When he finally set Ethan down, his eyes lifted toward the doorway where his wife, Rebecca, stood. She was beautiful, just as he remembered. Long dark hair, green eyes that once held warmth. But now, something was different. She stood still, arms crossed, a forced smile on her lips. Welcome home, she said. Logan stepped forward, wrapping his arms around her. She hesitated before returning the hug. The embrace was brief, distant. When she pulled away, she turned her gaze toward Ethan. Come inside, it's chilly. Logan frowned slightly but let it go. Maybe it was just the strain of being apart. Later that evening, after dinner, Logan sat with Ethan in the living room. The soft glow of the fireplace cast flickering shadows across the walls. The house smelled of cinnamon and vanilla, a scent he had missed. Ethan sat close, playing with a toy truck in his hands, but something about the way his fingers fidgeted made Logan uneasy. You okay, buddy? Logan asked, ruffling his hair. Ethan bit his lip, eyes darting toward the hallway before whispering, Dad, I need to tell you something. Logan's stomach tightened. What is it? Ethan hesitated, gripping the toy tighter. While you were gone, something weird happened. With Mom. Logan frowned. Weird how? She had a friend. A man. I heard them talking when I was in my room. Logan's chest constricted. He forced himself to keep his voice calm. Did you see him? Ethan shook his head. No, but I heard him. He was here in the house. Logan exhaled slowly, rubbing his temples. Maybe it was a misunderstanding. Maybe it was just a neighbor or someone from work. He didn't want to jump to conclusions, but something in Ethan's eyes told him there was more. You did the right thing telling me, Bud, Logan said finally, placing a reassuring hand on his son's shoulder. Ethan looked relieved but still nervous. You're not mad? Of course not, Logan promised. We'll figure this out. The next morning, Logan woke early, expecting to spend a slow morning with his family. But when he walked into the kitchen, Rebecca was already dressed, coat on, keys in hand. You're up early, Logan said, pouring himself a cup of coffee. I have errands to run, she replied quickly, avoiding his gaze. Logan took a sip, studying her. Can I come with you? She froze, just for a second, before shaking her head. It's just groceries and dry cleaning. Boring stuff. There was a time when they did boring things together. But now, it was as if she couldn't get out of the house fast enough. Her phone buzzed, and she instinctively grabbed it, turning her body away as she read the message. Logan caught a glimpse of her screen. An unknown number. "Who's that?" he asked casually. Rebecca locked her phone. "Just work." She gave him a quick peck on the cheek and hurried out the door. Logan watched her drive away, the unease in his stomach growing heavier. Alone in the kitchen, Logan noticed Rebecca's laptop sitting on the counter. The screen was still open. He hesitated. He had never snooped before, never felt the need to. But something about the way she had left, the way she held onto her phone, it gnawed at him. He stepped closer, glancing over his shoulder before tapping the trackpad. A notification popped up from an encrypted messaging app he didn't recognize. "Everything is on track. We just need to be careful." Logan's pulse spiked. Before he could read more, the screen locked. He stared at the darkened display, heart pounding. His mind raced through possibilities. Work? Unlikely. A friend? No, this was something else. He suddenly wished he had clicked faster. That night, Logan lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. Rebecca was beside him, asleep, or at least pretending to be. The events of the day churned in his mind. The distant behavior, the hurried errands, the message. Then, a noise. A low murmur. Logan turned his head slightly, listening. Rebecca was whispering. He couldn't make out the words, but the tone was sharp, urgent. He sat up, straining to hear. No, he doesn't know anything yet. Logan's blood ran cold. We have to be careful. A pause. Then, the final blow. The plan is still on track. His breath caught. A cold sweat broke across his skin. Rebecca ended the call and rolled over. Logan quickly lay back down, heart hammering in his chest. Logan sat at the breakfast table, the aroma of coffee filling the air. Rebecca moved around the kitchen with practiced ease. But there was something off. The way she avoided his gaze. The way she clutched her phone like it was a lifeline. "So, about last night," Logan said casually, taking a slow sip of coffee. "I heard you talking on the phone." Rebecca froze for half a second before forcing a laugh. "Oh, must have been a work thing." Logan set his cup down. "Who were you talking to?" She turned, eyes narrowing slightly. "I don't appreciate being interrogated, Logan." Logan studied her, noting the defensiveness. "That was new. I'm just asking. You've been acting different." Rebecca scoffed. "I've had to handle everything on my own for the past year and a half. Sorry if that changed me." It was a well-placed counterpunch. Logan exhaled, running a hand through his hair. Maybe she was right. Maybe he was just being paranoid. But his gut told him otherwise. That afternoon, Logan sat in his truck across the street, eyes fixed on the front door. If Rebecca wasn't going to tell him what was going on, he'd find out himself. Minutes later, she stepped out, sunglasses perched on her face, moving with purpose. Logan waited until she pulled out of the driveway before starting his engine and following at a safe distance. She drove across town, finally parking outside a small cafe. Logan pulled into a spot a few cars down, angling himself to watch from a distance. Rebecca walked in and immediately headed toward a man sitting in the corner. He was tall, lean, with slicked back hair and an unsettling confidence. Daniel Reed. Logan clenched his jaw as he watched them lean in close, whispering. Rebecca fidgeted with something in her hands. Papers. They exchanged glances, her posture stiff, his relaxed. Like he was in control. Logan snapped a few photos with his phone, his grip tightening. Who the hell was Daniel, and why was his wife meeting him in secret? Back home, Logan sat at the dining table, laptop open. He accessed their joint bank account and scrolled through months of transactions. Everything seemed normal until he noticed something strange. Several large withdrawals, all made while he was deployed. His heartbeat quickened. He traced the transactions to a separate account in Rebecca's name, one he didn't recognize. Clicking through, he uncovered something worse. The account was linked to Daniel Reed. Logan leaned back, running a hand over his face. This wasn't paranoia. This wasn't stress. This was betrayal. That night, Logan sat on the edge of Ethan's bed, watching his son stir in his sleep. Then, suddenly, Ethan whimpered and thrashed. "No, don't." Logan gently shook him. "Hey, buddy. Wake up." Ethan's eyes snapped open, wide with fear. He clutched Logan's arm. "Dad, I had a bad dream." Logan smoothed his hair. "You're safe. It was just a dream." Ethan hesitated before whispering, "I heard Mom talking again. She said something about making sure you don't come back." Logan's stomach twisted. "What else did you hear?" he asked, keeping his voice steady. Ethan shook his head. "I don't know. Just that. It sounded bad." Logan hugged his son, swallowing the rising fury in his chest. Rebecca wasn't just lying. She was planning something. Logan parked in a dimly lit lot downtown, gripping his phone. He scrolled through his contacts until he found the name, Detective Alan Morales. A deep breath. Then he hit call. "Morales. It's Carter." A pause. Then, "Logan? Haven't heard from you in years. I need your help." Logan glanced around, making sure he wasn't being watched. "I think my wife is plotting something, and I think she's working with a man named Daniel Reed." Another pause. Then, in a lower tone, "You sure?" Logan exhaled. "I have evidence. Financial records. Photos. And my kid is scared out of his mind." Morales sighed. "All right. Meet me tomorrow." "And Logan?" "Yeah. Be careful. If you're right, you're dealing with something dangerous." Logan ended the call, staring at his reflection in the windshield. Dangerous didn't begin to cover it. Logan sat across from Detective Alan Morales in a small, dimly lit diner. The scent of burnt coffee filled the air, and the low hum of conversation masked their words. Alan flipped through the photos Logan had taken. "This guy, Daniel Reed. He's bad news," he muttered. "He's been investigated for fraud, embezzlement, and some other things I can't disclose. But never anything concrete enough to lock him up." Logan clenched his jaw. "And now he's wrapped up with my wife." Alan sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. "I don't like it, Logan. You're dealing with something bigger than an affair." He paused, leaning in. "You need to be careful. If they're planning something, they'll make their move soon." Logan exhaled slowly. He already knew that. Back home, Logan waited until Rebecca had left before setting up small, hidden cameras in key places: living room, kitchen, office. He didn't like spying on his own wife, but something told him he wasn't dealing with the woman he married anymore. As he adjusted the last camera in the hallway, Ethan appeared in the doorway. "Dad, what are you doing?" Logan turned, forcing a smile. "Just fixing something." Ethan's eyes narrowed. "Is this about Mom?" Logan hesitated before kneeling in front of him. "Ethan, I need you to trust me, okay? No matter what happens." Ethan nodded, his small fingers gripping the hem of his shirt. "I trust you, Dad." Logan pulled him into a hug. He needed to protect his son, at any cost. Later that night, Logan sat at his laptop, watching the live feed from the hidden cameras. Hours passed, and then, movement. Rebecca was in the office, speaking in hushed tones on the phone. Logan turned up the volume. "Just make sure it's done cleanly," she said. "We can't afford mistakes." A man's voice responded, though it was too distorted to recognize. But then Rebecca said something that sent a chill down Logan's spine. "Daniel, I don't care how you do it. Just make sure Logan doesn't make it back." Logan's fists clenched. This wasn't paranoia. This was real. The next morning, Logan confronted Alan with his findings. "She's planning something, and it's not just an affair. It's my life." Alan scrolled through the bank transactions, his expression darkening. "They've been funneling money into offshore accounts. And look at this. Your life insurance policy was altered 6 months ago. Rebecca's the sole beneficiary." Logan's stomach turned. "That's it. That's the motive." Alan nodded grimly. "And it means they won't wait much longer." That evening, Rebecca approached Logan in the living room, her smile strained. "I was thinking," she said, "we haven't spent much time together as a family. Maybe a weekend at the cabin would be nice." Logan forced himself to smile. "That sounds great." He knew exactly what this was. A setup, but what they didn't know, he was setting a trap of his own. The winding road leading to the cabin was lined with towering pines, their dark silhouettes standing like silent sentinels. Logan gripped the steering wheel, keeping his breathing steady. Rebecca sat beside him, her gaze fixed on the window, while Ethan, oblivious to the underlying tension, hummed softly in the back seat. "This is going to be good for us," Rebecca finally said, her voice too casual. A chance to reconnect. Logan forced a nod, watching as the GPS marked their destination just a few miles ahead. He could feel the weight of her words, knowing they carried a meaning far beyond what Ethan could comprehend. He tightened his grip. "Yeah," he said. "A fresh start." The cabin was exactly as Logan remembered it. Isolated, rustic, perched near the edge of a towering cliff that overlooked a vast valley. The air was crisp, filled with the scent of pine and damp earth. Rebecca set their bags inside while Logan walked Ethan around the perimeter. He needed to make sure his son stayed far away from the danger that was about to unfold. "Dad, why do you keep looking around like that?" Ethan asked, his small voice filled with curiosity. Logan crouched in front of him, gripping his shoulders. "I just want you to listen to me carefully, okay? If anything happens, you run. No questions, no looking back. Just run." Ethan frowned. "Why? What's going to happen?" Logan swallowed hard. "Just promise me, Ethan." Ethan hesitated, then nodded. "I promise." Inside the cabin, Rebecca moved with calculated ease, setting up what she wanted to look like a romantic getaway. A warm fire crackled in the fireplace, and a bottle of wine sat open on the table. Logan took a slow breath and turned to face her. "Rebecca," he said, voice low, "how long have you been planning this?" Her hand, mid-reach for a glass, froze. Then, slowly, she placed the glass down. "I don't know what you mean." "Don't do that," Logan said, stepping closer. "I know everything. The account transfers, the insurance policy, the messages with Daniel." Rebecca's mask of indifference cracked. "Logan, please." "No." He cut her off, his voice like steel. "Is he outside right now, waiting for your signal?" A rustle outside confirmed his suspicions. Logan moved fast, yanking open the cabin door. And there, standing just beyond the treeline, was Daniel Reed, gun in hand. Daniel stepped forward, a smug smile playing on his lips. "You really are as sharp as they say, Carter." Logan didn't wait. He lunged, knocking the gun from Daniel's hand and sending both of them sprawling into the dirt. They wrestled for control, Daniel landing a brutal punch to Logan's ribs. But Logan, trained for war, anticipated the next move and countered, flipping Daniel onto his back. Rebecca screamed behind them, but Logan didn't let himself be distracted. He slammed Daniel's wrist against the ground until the man cried out, struggling against the weight pressing down on him. "You were going to kill me," Logan snarled, pinning him further. Daniel's smirk faltered, but before he could respond, the wail of sirens cut through the air. Logan glanced toward the road just in time to see police cars skidding to a stop. Alan Morales stepped out, gun drawn, officers flooding in behind him. "Logan," Alan called. "You good?" Logan looked down at Daniel, breath heavy, then nodded. "Yeah, I'm good." Two officers restrained Daniel, shoving him against a squad car, while another placed handcuffs around Rebecca's wrists. She turned to Logan, eyes brimming with something close to regret. "I never wanted it to end this way," she whispered. Logan exhaled, shaking his head. "Neither did I." As the officers led them away, Ethan ran toward Logan, his small arms wrapping around his father's waist. Logan held him tight, breathing in the scent of his son's hair, feeling the solid warmth of him. It was over. The sterile white walls of the interrogation room buzzed with artificial light. Logan sat across from Rebecca, the woman he once trusted with his life. Her wrists were shackled, her hands trembling against the cold metal table. "I was never in control," she whispered, her voice raw. "Daniel, he manipulated me. He made me believe he loved me, that this was our way out." Logan studied her, searching for any trace of the woman he used to know. "And what about Ethan?" he asked, his voice sharp. "Did he factor into your plan?" Tears welled in Rebecca's eyes. "I swear, I never wanted to hurt him. I thought we could just start over. But Daniel, he was never going to let you walk away." Logan exhaled, running a hand over his face. He wanted to believe her, but trust had long since shattered. Alan Morales paced his office, documents scattered across his desk. "You were right," he said, tossing a file in front of Logan. Daniel wasn't the mastermind. Logan's brows furrowed as he flipped through the pages. Financial transactions, offshore accounts, all traced back to Victoria Reed. Daniel's wife? Logan muttered. Alan nodded. She's been pulling the strings all along. Rebecca was just a pawn. Logan clenched his fists. Where is she now? Alan sighed. Gone. As soon as Daniel was arrested, she disappeared. Logan's pulse quickened. Victoria wasn't done yet. Not by a long shot. The grand estate in Charlottesville stood like a fortress, its iron gates looming. Logan adjusted the gun holster beneath his jacket, stepping onto the polished marble floor of the foyer. Victoria stood at the top of the grand staircase, a glass of red wine in hand. "Ah, Captain Carter," she purred. "I was wondering when you'd come knocking." Logan's muscles tensed. "It's over, Victoria." She descended the stairs slowly, her heels clicking against the stone. "Is it?" she mused. Daniel was sloppy. Rebecca was weak. But me? I finish what I start. Logan's fingers twitched toward his weapon. "Not this time." Victoria smirked, but before she could speak, the sound of sirens filled the air. Her expression faltered just slightly. "You set me up," she hissed. Logan's smirk matched hers. "You set yourself up." The police swarmed the estate, officers moving with precision. Alan approached Logan as Victoria was led away in handcuffs. "You did it," Alan said, crossing his arms. Logan watched as Victoria was shoved into the back of a police car, her face contorted in rage. "It's not over," she spat through the open door. "You think you're safe? You're not." The door slammed shut. Logan turned to Alan. "Is Ethan safe?" Alan nodded. "He's with my wife. He's okay." Logan exhaled, the weight of everything settling in. Good. The house was quiet. Logan stood in the doorway of Ethan's room, watching his son sleep peacefully for the first time in weeks. Ethan stirred, blinking sleepily. "Dad." Logan stepped inside, brushing a hand through his son's hair. "I'm here, buddy." Ethan yawned, his small fingers grasping Logan's sleeve. "Is it over?" Logan hesitated before nodding. "Yeah, it's over." Ethan's eyes fluttered shut, and Logan sat beside him, listening to his soft breathing. The war was finally behind them. The small town nestled in the foothills of the Rockies was nothing like where they had come from. That was exactly the point. Logan parked the truck in the driveway of their new home, a modest single-story house with a sprawling backyard. Ethan unbuckled his seatbelt and looked around. "It's smaller than our old house," he said quietly. Logan smiled, ruffling his son's hair. "Yeah, but it's just us now, and we can make it ours." Ethan nodded, but Logan could see the wariness in his eyes. The past still clung to him like a shadow. The days fell into a rhythm. Logan enrolled Ethan in the local school, took a job at a security firm, and spent his evenings making their house feel like home. One afternoon, Logan picked Ethan up from school and noticed the boy staring out the window, deep in thought. "How was your day, bud?" Logan asked. Ethan shrugged. "Okay." Some kids were talking about their moms and dads coming to a school event next week. Logan's chest tightened. "We don't have to go if you don't want to." Ethan hesitated before shaking his head. "I want to, but it's just us now." Logan gripped the wheel. "And that's enough. I'll be there, no matter what." Ethan's small smile was enough to reassure him, for now. One evening, Logan retrieved the mail and found a letter from the state penitentiary. Rebecca. He sat at the kitchen table, staring at her handwriting on the envelope. For a long moment, he debated opening it. Ethan wandered in, rubbing his eyes. "What's that?" Logan turned the letter over in his hands. "Something from your mom." Ethan watched him closely. "Are you going to read it?" Logan sighed, then placed the letter in a drawer. "Not tonight." Ethan nodded, as if understanding the weight of what it meant. Some wounds took longer to heal. Later that night, Logan sat beside Ethan as he drifted off to sleep. The boy stirred, blinking up at him. "You promise we're safe now?" Logan tucked the blanket around him. "I promise. No more secrets. No more looking over our shoulders." Ethan yawned. "Okay." As his son drifted off, Logan felt a deep sense of peace settle over him for the first time in years. The next weekend, Logan and Ethan hiked a quiet trail leading to a lake. The sun reflected off the water, casting a golden glow across the landscape. Ethan tossed a rock into the lake, watching the ripples spread. "I like it here," he said finally. Logan smiled, kneeling beside him. "Me too." Ethan turned to his father, a quiet understanding passing between them. "It's just us now." Logan wrapped an arm around his son's shoulders. "And that's enough." For the first time in a long time, it truly was. Some betrayals are so deep that they change the course of a person's life forever. Beneath the surface is a haunting reminder that sometimes the most dangerous enemies aren't strangers. They're the people we trust the most. But here's something to think about. If you were in Logan's shoes, what would you have done? Would you have confronted Rebecca immediately, or played along to gather evidence? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this gripping story and want more thrilling content like this, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. We bring you powerful narratives, shocking twists, and suspenseful tales that will keep you at the edge of your seat. Don't forget to like this video and share it with others who love a good mystery. Until next time, trust your instincts, question everything, and never ignore the warning signs beneath the surface.